This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Today's episode of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast brought to you by The Athletic. Premium coverage for passionate Detroit sports fans. Listeners of this podcast can save 30% off the first year of an annual subscription by going and visiting theathletic.com/DSP. Don't miss out. Become a subscriber of a great Detroit sports website. Become part of a growing Detroit sports community. Theathletic.com/DSP.
Welcome, everybody, to the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. This is episode 46. 46 of these bad babblearies. We got a very special show for you today. Starrcast just took place this past weekend, as well as All-In. We have a man who was on the streets. He was there in person, took it all in, loved it. He's going to give us the play-by-play of what took place this weekend in Chicago at Starrcast and All-In. But before we get to Big Drew, I got to introduce my cohort, my homie. He is my tag team partner on this podcast. He is my tag team partner, I want to say in life, but that makes it sound weird. He is my boy. He is the one. He is the only. He is the DOC. He is John the Doc Macaroon. What's up, cuz?
It's all good, man. I love talking wrestling with you. I'm definitely so excited because I got a chance to watch All-In a free way. If you heard DocNJock, I pirated it. I watched it. I Googled it. I feel a little dirty doing it, but you have to. I mean, every once in a while you look at it and you say, those guys made a boatload of money. What was my $50 really going to contribute? And so I was watching the Michigan game, and then I Googled and I went to Twitter and I typed in All-In stream, and it popped up, and I got to watch an amazing show start to finish. I did peek into the WGN show. Amazing production. It was great. As a wrestling purist, it was awesome, and I'm so thrilled that we got this connection with Big Drew. I want to hear what it was like to be on Podcast Row, all these podcasts, what it was like to be at the Sears Center. I'm so happy to be able to talk to Big Drew. He's definitely a big, huge wrestling fan. Let's get him on the phone. Let's start talking Starrcast.
Yeah, let's bring him in. All right, we've got Big Drew on the line. Big Drew can be heard every single day in Grand Rapids on ESPN 961 and here in Detroit on 1130 WDFN. You can also check out his podcast, The Court of Nerds, which is why he was able to go to Starrcast. He was on Podcast Row, as well as take in the All-In show, and here to give us a review of his absolutely awesome weekend. It's Big Drew. Drew, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, guys? Good to be back. Good to be back in West Michigan. I missed my home. I missed my bed, but Chicago was crazy.
Look, you got to walk us through your very first day at Starrcast. What went on?
Yeah, so we actually got to town a day early to kind of get settled in. We got in on Wednesday night and went and met up with a few other podcasts for dinner and had fun getting to know them and kind of chatting about like what the strategy was for the weekend and how we could all, it was the cool thing with Podcast Show, guys, and just to tell you this is, the vibe was very much everyone helps everyone. Everyone wanted to help everyone get more interviews and be more successful. And there wasn't this attitude of like, well, we want to snag the big interviews and we're going to, try and outdo one another. Like everyone wanted everyone to succeed. So that was just a cool vibe to go into it with. And then Thursday was the first day of Starrcast, and walking in, and this is not meant, none of what I say is meant to be a shot at Starrcast. It's a first-year event. You're going to have some hiccups, right? We walked in and got all the way into the event and walked all the way into like a meeting room. No one stopped us. We just kind of did what we wanted to do. We had to track down Dave, the social media guy, to get our credentials. And from there, man, the first night was just kind of coping with what was going on around us. Like the first night we're there, Jeff Jarrett is walking 2 feet in front of us. Cody is walking his dog Pharaoh through the event. And for us, the first day was not our live podcast day. So each podcast got a day on Podcast Row where you could set up all your gear, grab as many interviews as you could, and do everything you could. So I'll get to Friday in a minute. But Thursday, man, Thursday we're walking around. You shake hands. Oh, hi, Jeff Jarrett. How are you? Yes, yeah. Hi, you're here. You're just hanging out. Oh, hey, there's Ron Funches. Hi, Ron. Are you guys Botchamania fans at all?
Yes.
Yeah, Matthew from Botchamania is hands down the most British person I've ever met and the nicest person. Like I'll get to that in a second. So because his panel was Thursday night, and it was a riot. So Thursday night, we got the chance to, just because we recognized him, Brandon Cutler, who's a California wrestler, good friends with the Young Bucks, was working their merch booth. Well, Brandon was also one of the featured wrestlers on Amazon Prime's Dojo Pro. And good show. If you guys haven't checked it out, it was a fun show to watch. So we actually just did a quick 5 minutes with Brandon Cutler talking about Dojo Pro. And next thing you know, Dojo Pro, the actual official account, is messaging us, tipping us off where their people are going to be all weekend. So we had that going for us.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
And it was nuts. It was nuts. So Thursday night was a couple of great panels. The Monday Night War debate, I believe, was Thursday night, and that was crazy. Ben did a great write-up on that. That's over at thecourtofnerds.com if you guys want to check that out. But I went to, that night while that panel was going on, I went to Elite Karaoke with Marty Scurll.
Yeah, so I've seen videos of this. How was that? Because I'm a huge, I love Marty. I was a huge fan of Marty when he was Party Marty in TNA. So,
Yeah.
I love Marty Scurll. He's one of my absolute favorite. John got to go meet him at an ROH show and took a bunch of pictures with him and sent them to me, and I was super jealous. So he's one of my faves. What was it like watching this guy do karaoke? Because I heard parts of it, and it was horrible.
Oh, it was a train wreck in the most fun way possible. At one point, they were very obviously filming bits for being the Elite.
Mm-hmm.
And so the crowd got really into it. And Marty opened up by just basically saying, he came out and sang Shawn Michaels' theme song. That was his entrance.
That was the video I see.
Singing I'm a Sexy Boy. And after that, he just, he goes, yeah, we're at karaoke, yeah. By the way, you guys know I can't actually sing, right? It's a bit for the show. I can't actually sing. I'm terrible. So he brought out Hangman Page, and they did You've Got a Friend in Me, and that killed. And then the Bucks and Cody came out, and they all sang a tribute song to dead famous dick wrestler Joey Ryan.
We're going to talk about that later, by the way.
That definitely needs to, in a very punny way intended, come back up. But it was a train wreck. I did not make it through the whole panel just because it devolved very quickly into Marty just pulling people up on stage and doing karaoke with random people, with random bloggers. But there was a great moment early on where, and I don't know if you guys got to catch any of it, Twitch TV and Fight TV were streaming it all weekend. And the hosts for Twitch and Fight were Alicia Tao and Matt Stryker from Impact. And so Marty gets up there, and he's swearing left and right. And Matt Stryker is motioning at him to stop swearing because they're streaming live on Fight. And Marty goes, what? I can't fucking swear. This is fucking bullshit. And so Hangman comes up. They're going to do their boots routine where he's like, why the fuck aren't you wearing fucking shoes? And he looks at Stryker and he goes, Matt Stryker, can I swear? Matt Stryker, I need your permission. And Stryker goes, whatever, Marty, do whatever you want. Marty goes, good, because I'm going to fucking do it anyways. So Marty was he was vulgar and hilarious, and everyone loved it. And at one point, he realized that there was a 10-year-old child in the room. And he and Hangman are doing their boot spit and swearing at each other up and down. He goes, oh, no, Hangman, we have to fucking stop. There's a child. I feel weird. There's a child here. So they were great. Later that night was the live Botchamania panel. And so the quick story behind that is that Matthew's flight was incredibly botched, which was the big joke, was Matthew botched his own meet and greet. And the Botchamania panel actually opened with Ron Funches doing a good 15-minute stand-up set, which was awesome. In one of the jokes, he basically insinuated that he wanted people to tweet LeBron James to get LeBron James to have sex with his mother. So
how did Matthew botch his own flight? Did he just miss it, or was there a delay? How do you botch your own flight?
There were delays, there were canceled flights, and by the time he got up on stage, he had missed his meet and greet. He was promising people he would make it up, but he gets on stage and he goes, yeah. So I caught a flight at 6 a.m. my time. And right now it is 4 a.m. my time. I am cranky. I am tired, but I'm here. So let's do this, you stupid fucks. And he was just angry.
He was so upset.
And he was so British about it. And I actually got to interview him the next day. He sat down with us for a little bit. And we were like, Matthew, we know you were really mad at it, but we thought you did a great job at your panel. He goes, oh, fuck off. He goes, oh, I'm sorry, is this one of those, do we swear on this? And we were like, yeah, we swear on this podcast. He goes, oh, good, well, fuck off.
Did he Did he drop the C word at all? Because Brits love the C word. They use that like fish and chips, man. It's crazy.
No, he did not drop that one at us, but he was really funny. He goes, "You guys have all this happiness and love and encouragement, and it's not British. It's not British. All this being nice to each other shit. It's not British." And we were just cracking up. I was like, "Dude, I'm sorry we're not British enough for you." But that was basically a wrap on Thursday night. Events ended fairly early on Thursday, and we kind of went back to the hotel to disconnect and get ready, and because our big day was Friday. So that was Thursday, guys.
So walk us through Friday then. So how is the convention center easy for me to say. How is the convention center set up, and where are you guys located relative to, I guess, when you walk in the doors?
So the Hyatt was a weird setup for a convention. I'm not gonna lie to you, because it wasn't like a traditional convention center. We were very much so in a hotel. Like, this is very much so a hotel. And it was weird having, like, in the lobby of the hotel, PCO breaking cement over various parts of his body as these poor flight attendants are trying to check in, you know?
That's got to be so funny.
That's how close in proximity things were.
It's just got to be like, if you're not for sure what's going on, like, you walking into this just has to be mind-blowing. Like, you just have to be like, oh, yeah. What is this? What is going on? Is a circus here? What's up, you know? It's got to be crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was absolutely bonkers. And then again, Friday, it was like an amplified version of Thursday. So Friday, you know, you're walking around, and all of a sudden you hear people chanting, "The elite, the elite," and you get brushed to the side by security because here come the Bucks, and here comes Cody and Pharaoh and Brandy. And then, you know, there's, you know, my new friend, Fat Ass Masa. By the way, Masa is the sweetest human being alive. If I meet another person who's as nice as Masa, it'll be a long time. We met him the first night, took a quick picture with him. We gave him some free T-shirts that we had, and he found us later on in the weekend after he had buttons made for the Masa Club.
Oh, that's awesome. That is so awesome.
He wanted to make sure we got them to thank us for the shirts.
Wow, that's awesome. That's a good guy right there. So Friday, so the basic setup, guys, is Starrcast took over this hotel. So the lobby was one stage area where people could do things. There was also right behind that stage was the Call a Match with Ian Riccaboni and Kevin Kelly, where people could actually call a match with one of these world-famous announcers, which was really cool. And then behind that was a hallway, a really long hallway where the main meet and greet rooms were. And in that hallway, on the opposite side of the hallway from the meet and greet rooms, was Podcast Row. So that's where we were set up. We got in really early on Friday because we were told get there early and you might have more opportunities. And we were like, cool, we're going to get every opportunity we possibly can. So by getting there early Friday morning, we got to sit down with Colt Cabana. Like, that was how our day started Friday was, oh, hey, Colt Cabana's here. You guys want to talk to Colt? We were like, yeah, we'd love to talk to the godfather of Chicago wrestling. Sure, why not? How was that? How great was it?
Colt, oh, man, well, it was really funny. So our podcast is called The Court of Nerds, and you guys may be aware Colt Cabana has not had the best luck with courts lately.
No. Yes, very
so
aware.
He sat down and immediately, like, thank God we were rolling on it for recording. He goes, wait, a court? I just got done with this. And we're like, we're not that kind of court. We promise. We promise. And he just cracked up, and he sat and he chatted with us. We gave him some free T-shirts, and, you know, he was awesome. Just a really nice guy. You know, we talked about, you know, his relationship with pro wrestling tees and what that's done to change the game for wrestling shirts, for wrestling fans. And he talked to us for a good 5-10 minutes and was really, really fun. And he had to move on. There was a lot, you know, they were trying to get him on every podcast, and so we were like, yeah, no, move on. We've had our time with you. It was really fun. And then right after that, Matt Stryker and Alicia too came over to interview us on Fight TV and Twitch, which was super weird that they wanted to talk to us about our podcast on Fight TV and Twitch. But we found out why shortly thereafter, because we chatted with them for a little bit. We propped up, oh yeah, we just talked to Colt. We're hoping to get to talk to a lot of other people today. Come by if you're seeing this. We'd love to chat with you guys. We've got free shirts to give away. And they're about to leave, and Matt Stryker goes, I'm going to tell you guys something that Alicia does not want me to tell you. And Alicia legitimately started blushing. And unless she's the greatest actress on the planet, this seemed very cute. Stryker goes, we were down at the other end of Podcast Row, and Alicia pointed at you, young Benjamin, and he points at my buddy Ben, who's kind of our de facto leader.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, and she said, "Who is that tall, handsome, bearded guy who looks like the lead singer of the Spin Doctors?" Which is the most Canadian pickup line I've ever heard. And Alicia is just blushing and, like, runs away. And Ben goes, "All right, what's up?" Now, Ben is very taken, ladies and gentlemen, but he was very flattered that the gorgeous Miss Alicia Atu thought he was cute.
I was going to say, so did Ben follow up on this at all? But obviously not.
No, but Matt Stryker was winking at us all weekend, so that felt pretty nice. He's a handsome devil. That was cool. That was a really funny moment. And, like, the cameras went away, and Stryker goes, "Great job, guys." We're like, "Thank you, Matt Stryker."
Now, Drew, you talked about Pro Wrestling Tees. Now, this is a great website, and you said that they're building relationships now with a bunch of wrestlers, sponsoring a lot of these wrestlers and giving them a more opportunity to make some money off of their shirts. Talk about what they've done in terms of helping wrestlers out with their product.
No, absolutely, absolutely. They and again, for guys who aren't familiar, Pro Wrestling Tees, we actually stopped there on our way into Starrcast. We stopped Wednesday afternoon at Pro Wrestling Tees, just as kind of like one of those check marks, you know, like, oh, this is a thing you do. You're in Chicago. You're a pro wrestling fan. Like, this is what happens. And the store is great, by the way. The store is great. The employees all really love wrestling, and they're just the nicest people. And ProWrestlingTees.com is a place where any independent wrestler can set up and sell their shirts. And Colt Cabana was talking to us about how it was an opportunity for guys to push their merchandise outside of the WWE machine, and for these guys to be able to make money and support themselves as pro wrestlers. And I think you guys know this. This is something that came up a lot over the weekend. This is the greatest time in pro wrestling history. I mean, if everything is so accessible for fans, you can get the merch of your favorite wrestlers online, and now you can even get the merch of people, like, associated with wrestling. Like, today I'm wearing a Handsome Boy Championship Wrestling t-shirt. It was Marty and Sarah Love Wrestling, one of the other podcasts that was there. They sell their shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees. Ron Funches sells shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees. Like, it is a site for wrestling fans run by wrestling fans. And they were one of the main sponsors of the entire weekend.
Yeah, Pro Wrestling Tees does really good work. One of the guys that we do podcasting with, our buddy Mikey, he does stuff with Pro Wrestling Tees, and they just sell shirts left, right, and center, man. They just bootleg them out there, and it really helps. If you got a podcast, it really helps, kind of extra revenue, helps it come in for you. What were some of your favorite moments from Starrcast? I mean, it sounds like it was a great time, not just being on Podcast Row, but the entire setup sounds like it was totally awesome. So what were some of your favorite moments from Starrcast?
Oh, man. The Botchamania panel I thought was great. What other panels did we go to that were just killer? Oh, the Monday Night War panel was great. The Death of WCW panel, hearing Eric Bischoff own up to some of the mistakes that he made was just kind of an incredible thing to hear. To hear Eric Bischoff even admit that he makes mistakes was kind of weird. I would say, honestly, I don't know if you guys are fans yet, MJF, independent wrestler. Cody Rhodes has tagged him as one of the next big things. And if the way he conducted himself at Starrcast is any indication, this kid is one of the next big things. He was in character all weekend, never broke character, like was running up and down Podcast Row, burying people and cutting promos. To the point where, and I haven't confirmed this story, but to the point where he went on one of the other podcasts on Podcast Row, and the guy said, "You want to know what I think of your podcast?" And the guy goes, "Yeah, sure." And MJF spit in his face and walked away.
Whoa.
The guy was just, I mean, we had him on our podcast, and the whole thing, he's just cutting a promo on us, on the people in line. He was just a walking, talking promo machine. Never stopped, never shut up. I really wish they would have let him have the mic a little bit at All-In to do that work that he's so good at. But he's also great in the ring, which helps. So that was a fun moment for me, just because I'm a fan of the guy and I'm a fan of the work that he's doing. That was really cool. Veda Scott sat down with us. She was just a complete doll, just an absolute sweetheart. I think one of the big things for me was just seeing all of the people just all trying to have a good time. Like, everyone just wanted everyone else to have fun. It was the same vibe you get at, like, a music festival where we're all here for the same reason. No one needs to fight anyone else, and everything will be fine. And it was just a good vibe throughout the weekend.
So going into All-In, the pay-per-view, what matches were you excited to see? What was getting you ready to mark out the next day?
Oh, man. So Saturday, it was Saturday was like hurry up and wait, like you woke up early like it's friggin' Christmas, but like you're not going to your grandparents for Christmas until 3 o'clock, so you have to kill time. Oh, it was maddening. But I was excited going into it. I was excited for the over-the-budget Battle Royal, which ended up delivering far beyond what I imagined. I was really excited for Kenny and Penta, and I was really excited for the main event. That 6-man tag, I've never seen Rey Mysterio wrestle live before, so I was really happy that I would get to check that one off my bucket list. And then so many other matches delivered far beyond my expectation. But I'll start very quickly, guys, with the opening tag match. The pop from the crowd was unreal. I mean, it was a lit crowd all night long, all night, no letting up. And to quote my good friend Jim Costa, it was just banger after banger.
I wish we had that drop right now.
I know, right? But the tag team match was all fine and good. It was very competent tag team work, great finish to the match, well booked, good read on the crowd. The over-the-budget Battle Royal may have been one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And I've seen people criticizing it online for being a spot fest, but newsflash to folks at home, you had an over-the-budget Battle Royal that was being shown on WGN America. Hell yeah, you're going to make it a giant spot fest to put all of these people over. You wanted everyone to have a moment, and I think everyone in that over-the-budget Battle Royal, everyone got a little shine. Everyone got a little moment. And I think, to me, the big star-making turns in that were, I mean, you start with Marco Stunt, the 22-year-old who looks like he's 12. That was the little kid with the big head of hair who did the bust out the backpack dance.
Yep.
Jordan Grace, the only female in the over-the-budget Battle Royal, Thick Mama Pump, picking up 300-plus pound Brian Cage and tossing him out was maybe one of the biggest pops of the night. Everyone loved Jordan Grace. Everyone went nuts for her. And then the big reveal at the end that Chico was not Chico. It was instead Flip Gordon eliminating Bully Ray. That got a massive pop, and the Flip chant was just through the roof. I'm going to skip around on the card a little bit, you guys, but the women's Fatal 4-Way match, the female Fatal 4-Way, was unreal. Unreal. No one could have seen that coming. Chelsea Green just put on a show. She and Tessa are the future of women's wrestling. Britt Baker, of course, was great, and Madison Rayne was great as well, but Chelsea in her two-face gimmick was one of the best things that I saw all night long. That female Fatal 4-Way made a very valiant effort at stealing the show. What may have actually stolen the show would have been the Chicago Street Fight. Janela and Hangman Page just left it all out there with some scary spots. But to bring up what we had mentioned earlier, this one had a false ending to it. Hangman Page, of course, hits the rites of passage off a ladder, putting Joey Janela through a table in a spot that looked like Janela died. But then the lights go out, and we see a video on the giant video screen. And I don't know if you guys remember the Undertaker's resurrection?
Yep.
When the Druids came out?
Yep. I've seen it. Yep.
There were not Druids, gentlemen.
No.
There were penises.
Yeah.
There were inflatable penises as part of the resurrection of famous dick wrestler Joey Ryan. They brought him back from the dead. They all joked that they've been sitting on that footage of Joey's penis moving for 4 months. They said it was uncomfortable footage to sit on. But Joey Ryan came out, did his whole spiel, did his whole bit, rubbed the baby oil on, and hit Hangman Page with one of the best super kicks I've ever seen, effectively knocking out Hangman Page. And as the inflatable penises carried Hangman Page out of the arena erupted in a chant of "Rest in Penis."
So what did you...
Which is already a shirt you can buy at ProWrestlingTees.com.
What did you make of the Joey Ryan bit? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Were you taken aback by it? Or what was your reaction to this?
Oh, I loved it. Listen, if you guys watched any of our videos on Facebook, I've been predicting this for months, that Joey Ryan would be involved in the Janela Page match somehow. This was far beyond what I expected. And it was really it was knowing that your audience likes that kind of old school goofery, as long as it doesn't wreck the match, right? They had it. This is what WWE does wrong that the indies are doing right. We don't mind the weird. We don't mind the silly. but don't use it to ruin a good wrestling match. Like, Paige and Janela got the finish it deserved, and then you did weird stuff. It's like what WWE should do with the New Day. Let the weird, silly stuff happen, but let the New Day finish the match. Then do more weird, silly stuff. Don't ruin the match. And that was a big theme of the night, was respecting the wrestling. And really, like, even later on in the night when Chris Jericho showed up, there was still a massive amount of respect for the wrestling. Jericho didn't interfere with the match. Jericho showed up after the match was over. And that was the other big reveal of the night, was Chris Jericho attacking Kenny Omega and then doing exactly what we all expected, plugging his cruise.
You always got to get your merch over, right?
Oh, you got to sell tickets, baby. You always got to sell tickets. If you're Chris Jericho, he to his credit, full penta gear. No one saw it coming. He hits a running code breaker on Jericho, on Omega. I'm sorry. The crowd pops like crazy. He hits another one and rips off the mask, and there is Jericho in the ring, full penta face paint, full penta mask, and just smiling like the butcher's dog. Grabs the mic and goes, "Hey, Kenny Omega, I'll see you on the Jericho cruise." Lights go down again. Everyone cheers like crazy, and I'm like, "Great, we're cheering for a commercial." But I got to see Chris Jericho hit a code breaker.
Did you know it was Jericho before he took off his mask, or was it the big reveal for you?
It was you kind of figured it was Jericho. Like, once he hit the code breaker, it was like, oh, it's Jericho. Oh, it's Jericho. All right.
So what?
But otherwise, if you were even a little further back than we were, because we had, not bragging, we had great seats. We ended up with great seats. But if you were a little further up, like our buddy Austin was up in the nosebleeds, and he was like, "Dude, you couldn't tell it was Jericho from up here. You could not tell it was Jericho."
So what was your favorite match of the evening then?
Oh, man. You know what? I mean, I don't think I can argue that Kenny and Penta was the best wrestling match of the night. And even though it was rushed, I actually think the main event may have been my favorite, because it was a high-speed, and to me it was the Bucks kind of winking at the industry, whether it was rushed or not. That match was planned to be a massive spot fest from start to finish. It just would have been a more well-paced spot fest. And it was, you got to see everyone in that match do exactly what they do best. You saw Kota Ibushi jumping around, making people miss, throwing high-flying technical maneuvers. You got a three-way more bang for your buck and a Meltzer driver. Like, you got what you paid for. Oh, and Ray hit a 619 on Matt Jackson. Like, I got what I wanted.
Right. So with an event like this, I mean, this was a massive deal. So it was huge. You just basically ran us through the entire weekend, and it sold out in 30 minutes. And it fills over capacity with 11,200, I believe, 63 people. What does this mean for the health of pro wrestling going forward? Because this is a big deal. Generally, it's just WWE, only WWE. You do have your indies, but you've got to be a hardcore wrestling fan. This is something that I think crossed over, almost like Justin Timberlake going from boy band to doing hip-hop to doing pop music. It's like all over the place, right? So this is like a crossover event. What does it mean for the health of pro wrestling going forward?
Well, I would say this. I would say this spoke very well for the health of pro wrestling. I would say one of the big themes, like I mentioned earlier, one of the big themes of the weekend was, this is the best time it has ever been for pro wrestling. This is the best time it has ever been to be a pro wrestling fan, because the content is so accessible. And what people who watched on Fight TV didn't get to see was Cody and the Bucks coming out afterwards, and Cody giving a speech using some words that you've heard him use before. But he said, "No one man owns pro wrestling." And he pointed at the crowd. He said, "You all own pro wrestling." He was like, "What do you think? Should we do another one of these?" The crowd went crazy, and Matt grabs the mic from Cody and goes, whoa, just so we're clear, we're not announcing anything tonight. We just want to make sure you guys want us to do it. They did the traditional Young Bucks and Cody. They teased, they had fun, and you know, one of the great moments in the post thing was Matt and Nick gave great speeches, and I think Matt was going off about, we did this, we did that, we even invaded Raw, and Cody grabs the mic from him and he goes, "Technically, we were just in a mall parking lot, guys. We didn't actually invade Raw." And that guy's like, he goes, "Dude, kayfabe." So they had a lot of fun. They knew what they were doing. They knew they were poking at the industry. And there were even a couple of moments during it that, like, didn't make everyone smile, you know. at the end of the ROH World Title match, which was incredible, by the way, seeing Jay Lethal come out in his black machismo personality was unreal for me. But having Bully Ray run in and having that fight afterwards, and you kind of knew they were going to have to do a few favors for New Japan, a few favors for Chris Jericho, a few favors for Ring of Honor, a few favors for Impact to get everyone to play nice and lend all of their stars to this show. But it worked. And it worked. And my friend Sean used to always say, water finds its level. So when the water level raises, everyone goes up. All In raised the water level for Ring of Honor, for Impact, for New Japan. I mean, I don't think without All In, New Japan and Ring of Honor sell out Madison Square Garden. I think the hype of All In created enough hype to sell out the Garden for Ring of Honor and New Japan. And I think this can only mean good things going forward. Now, do I see them doing another All In? Absolutely. Do I see them doing more than one a year? No, not even possible. Conrad has been adamant that he's not doing another Starrcast. But everyone has been laughing because of how much money he made. We all know Conrad is going to do another Starrcast. But it was, guys, I would say definitely for the industry moving forward, this was a massive, massive positive thing that you could do this non-traditional event and pull it off as well as they did.
I feel bad. We've had you on for almost a half hour here, and I haven't plugged any of your stuff. You go to Twitter. Follow Jim on at Twitter at Big Drew Con, or go to at Court of Nerds. A ton of great videos from what took place this weekend at All In, at Starrcast. The guys over at the Court of Nerds do a great job. It's phenomenal. If you love wrestling, that's why you're listening to this show. Go check that out. Your weekend wasn't done at All In, though. You ended up going to the WWE event that took place on Monday night. I believe it was a SmackDown house show in Kalamazoo, right?
Yeah. So we were pretty tired, but we pushed through. We had some pretty good seats for the Kalamazoo house show, and so we went, had a good time. It was pretty. I mean, it was pretty generic. It was pretty okay. They kept putting they kept putting championship belts on the line, and as people who know what's going on, myself and John and Ben from the Court of Nerds are sitting there, and we're like, okay, but we know the belt's not changing hands tonight. Come on, you guys, come on. Now, on the plus side of that, I did get to see Jeff Hardy. I'd never seen Jeff Hardy in person, and they did Hardy Nakamura for the United States title, and they actually wrestled a pretty decent match. They did the women's title thing, and they had Becky come interrupt it, and, oh, yeah, Carmella gets another shot at the title. But, here's the thing. Having Becky side with Carmella doesn't make any sense either. So it was like, you can't even write your house shows right. Now, the thing I will say about the house show, one, Byron Saxton deserves a Medal of Honor. And I never thought I would say that. But Saxton was out there working his butt off. I mean, that guy just chilled so hard to that crowd. And you know what? That crowd gave him nothing but shit for it. He didn't deserve it. He didn't deserve it. Byron, if you hear this, you didn't deserve it. You worked hard on Sunday. He really did. And Byron, I thought, was great. And you saw a couple of fun matches, You had a mixed tag. They did Zelina and Andrade versus Lana and Rusev. That was fun. I was really shocked we got Daniel Bryan and The Miz. It was in a full match of Daniel Bryan and The Miz. So there was very little to complain about, but it was just like a half-sold Wings Event Center the night after a sold-out Sears Center was just so deflating.
Yeah, I was going to use the word deflating.
It was. It took the wind right out of your sails. Like, you've been cruising all weekend. We even went back to Starrcast on Sunday just to kind of say goodbye to the whole thing. Say goodbye to some of the nice people that we met and wish some of the podcasts that we made friends with well. And we were just like, okay, we may have made a mistake by coming to this, but we were there. We tried to catch pancakes from the New Day. We did all of it felt like a touristy thing, like, oh, okay, we're going to go to this tourist wrestling event.
Guys, if you loved what you heard here, Drew, I want to thank you personally. This was awesome. We loved you coming in and basically giving us a rundown of your crazy, hectic week. But if you love this, guys, you can hear Big Drew daily, like I said, in Grand Rapids on ESPN 961, in Detroit on Detroit's 1130 WDFN. You can also check out his podcast, which I highly recommend, The Court of Nerds. Again, go to Twitter, Find him on Twitter at Big Drew Khan and at Court of Nerds. Court of Nerds has a ton of videos. He talked about the write-up that Ben did on the Monday Night Wars. Go check it out. A ton of content for you, especially if you're a wrestling fan. It's out there. You need to go get it. And Drew, again, thank you so much for coming on and giving us, I don't know how long you gave us, probably 35 minutes of your time here. I appreciate it. It was awesome.
Dude, no worries. Thanks for letting me ramble. I had the most fun, and I'll talk to you guys again very, very soon. Enjoy.
All right. Thanks, Drew. We'll talk to you.
Big Drew set the scene, man. And I think the point that he made that everybody's talking about is the fact that they pulled this off independently. And it's true. I mean, even with Podcast Row, right now, when everybody looks at it, when you have a monopoly, and that's what makes this country great, is that everybody's recognizing, okay, Vince McMahon owns wrestling right now. But what happens is then it's pro-owner, okay? And so what that means is he dictates the schedule where these guys are working nonstop, basically only getting a Wednesday off, where you got on a Monday, Labor Day, you got a WWE show going on in Saginaw, and you got Monday Night Raw on live TV, and you're like, what the heck's going on? My wife was like, they're doing a show in Saginaw on Labor Day? I'm like, dude, this guy is, making these guys work. But now, when you have a situation in which independent wrestlers are creating their own thing, then they can say, you know what? If we can make money, if we can sustain a living, if we can make it profitable, then we can give options, competition, and then that will step up. That will force WWE to take notice. Because what happened in the Monday Night Wars? WCW started to pinch some of the wrestlers. And what happened? All of a sudden, Kevin Nash and the likes of Scott Hall got to make more money. Macho Man, Lex Luger, they got to leverage themselves. And that's how you can support wrestling, the wrestlers. Now, for me, I also understand Vince McMahon's perspective where he's like, look, I made $1 billion for me and my family. I understand that there's others trying to do it, but it'll be a tough feat for other independent wrestlers to match what Vince is doing because he's got a massive head start. It's $1 billion company. It's publicly traded. Its stock prices right now are through the roof. Is there a spot for independent wrestling? Yes. Will that help the wrestling business in total? Yes. And it'll be great to see what happens going forward. And All In was just a massive success, all in all, and it was done by independent wrestlers. It's a great thing that happened for the world of wrestling. I enjoyed it, and it was really great storytelling. And before we get out of here, we're going to spend just a quick couple minutes just recapping the week. My concept, my opinion was, after All In, you then go and transition back to Raw and SmackDown, and you just go, man, it kind of just seems light. It doesn't seem as interesting. It doesn't seem as passionate. And somebody had asked me, do you guys like house shows? Yeah, I like house shows. Less breaks. You just go right through it. I like going to pay-per-views a little bit more than shows. That's why I did not take in SmackDown at LCA this go-around. I like the continuous action, and what made All In awesome was the emotion, the wrestling, the time that was given to all these matches. I even said, dude, that event was too long. If they want to go forward, Dennis Farrell, great podcaster who does great work at the Wrestling Perspective podcast, yeah, should they do more of them? Should they do 4 of them? I think if they do, they got to make them 3 hours and just cap it. Keep it light, keep it to where the best wrestlers are there. What made All In awesome was you had this awesome list of guys that were there. You had Okada, you had Rey Mysterio, Chris Jericho, DDP in the corner of Cody Rhodes. You had all these great wrestlers there, and when you transition to see what you saw on Raw and SmackDown, it was a little bit light, and I did not like, the biggest thing I did not like on Raw is now you have all the belts tied up in one feud, and you basically just crapped on the rest of your roster. All the belts are in the Shield feud? I guess. I mean, fine. Raw was watchable. SmackDown was a little bit more entertaining. But I felt like, you know what? I don't even think we should vote this week in terms of who had the better show. I think if you want, you can give it a tie. But both shows were just kind of like, okay, collectively, it was decent to promote the cause of Hell in a Cell. But there were no real great moments. There was, obviously the promo of Samoa Joe. Seeing The Undertaker was awesome. But in the end, for me, it just fell flat right now, I've already seen The Undertaker versus Triple H. I've already seen Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker. I've already seen it. I don't feel like you need to promo it. Great. It was great to see The Undertaker, but it wasn't like, oh my God, Andrea popped for it. But for me, it was just like, you know what? Are you going to have HBK versus The Undertaker? I like what HBK said. I'm not going to come back. I did it out of respect for you. I don't feel like airtime is needed to just say, hey, you can just put a poster. Triple H Undertaker. It sells itself. You don't need to give 15 minutes of a promo for that. And then when you go over to SmackDown, it was great, but then, a lot of the angles for me are just in a position where you go, you know what? I like it. It's fine, but I in some positions I don't like the fact that, you know what, you're putting Daniel Bryan over at the expense of Almas. Why are you squashing a guy like Almas when you got a position to elevate him when he's had great matches? Why are situations in place where some of the writing doesn't even make sense on Raw? You have now Ember Moon tagging with Dana Brooke, which
made no sense.
It made no sense. When you have the Shield getting arrested on Labor Day, being in front of a judge, which was hilarious, made no sense. So for me, what overshadowed this week in Raw, and that's why we spent a lot of time on All In, was an independent show put on an amazing product that overshadowed Raw and SmackDown, and I think it well overshadowed it. And so I don't think we need to vote. It was a good week. Hell in a Cell for those that It was a good week for those that watch Raw and SmackDown, but it just wasn't memorable enough to overshadow All In at all.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Because I left both Raw and SmackDown feeling underwhelmed.
Yeah.
It felt like getting the new Raw Tag Team Champs was cool, but like you said, now all the belts are tied up.
I wanted the B team to have the belts.
Right, with the Shield and with now Drew McIntyre, Dolph Ziggler, and Braun Strowman who have teamed up. Undertaker and Shawn Michaels was cool, but okay, whatever. I didn't understand bringing Kevin Owens back. Like, he quit last week, but he's back now to beat up who? Bobby Lashley? This is what we're doing? Like, Kevin Owens should have been held off until after Hell in a Cell. And then, like you said, on SmackDown, you didn't get Becky and Charlotte, and I felt like them not being on the program, only doing the sit-down interview, I felt like it took a lot of the wind out of the sail of that story. Like, you didn't even have to have them on, and it would have been fine. But you wanted to do a side-by-side sit-down with them. It just didn't make sense. I did like Almas and Bryan because I thought it was a good match. I thought it was solid. But again, Almas takes the L. How many L's is he going to take before he gets a W? Do you know what I'm saying? So you're right. I feel like it was a know-nothing week for both shows. Let's do this because we keep track of it, so we'll just give them both a half a point.
Exactly.
How about that?
Exactly. No real clear winner. Real interesting week going on in terms of what's going on with Hell in a Cell. But it's just there. Like I said, All In was really an amazing situation with all the wrestlers and things like that. So it was pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah. You want some news and notes? I got some quick ones. So
hit me up with news and notes.
All In 2, since we talked about All In, it is being planned, and they are thinking about a West Coast location, probably somewhere in LA. No date is set as of now, but the success of All In 1, there's now going to be a 2. This, like Drew said, could become a yearly thing. WWE Evolution is struggling to sell out their 11,000-seat arena as tickets remain in every price category, which is kind of funny because All In sold out in 30 minutes, and WWE Evolution can't sell out in however many weeks it's been going on now, you know? They have basically the same seating capacity, so it's a little bit weird there. Impact teases Chris Jericho via Twitter. Don Callis and Josh Matthews are sitting in front of a bunch of chanting fans screaming Jericho's name. Jericho has said he will be a free agent in 2020, so maybe Y2J to Impact? Again, just kind of throwing this out here because it's been getting talked about a whole lot, so we'll see what happens. And no shocker here, but it sounds like Roman Reigns is going to get a long title run as WWE Universal Champion, which means when Braun Strowman cashes in at Hell in a Cell, don't expect him to win, and that will mark back-to-back times where the Money in the Bank cash-in hasn't resulted in a championship. So that's all I got for you.
Very interesting stuff. Big thanks to Big Drew. Great stuff. Court of Nerds podcast, like you said. Definitely check out our other podcasts on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, and definitely support those who support our project. The Breaking Down the Ring podcast airs every Wednesday, 9:15 p.m. on podcastdetroit.com. You can find them on Twitter at BDRcast and everywhere else via social media at BDRcast. And definitely check out the Wrestling Perspective Podcast.com with Dennis Farrell. Wow, he has aligned himself with the big dogs. James Ellsworth, Petey Williams, highly ranked iTunes podcast, great in-depth conversations, and great guests. Dennis Farrell always does great things in the world of podcasting, and especially now in the world of wrestling. WrestlingPerspectivePodcast.com. All right, cuz, great week. Holy cow. Can't wait. I'm looking forward to the next week's podcast.
Yeah, absolutely, man. This was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see everybody next week.